Okay. All right.
I'll be
So
able to save it.
yeah. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Amber. I work here at Meadowbrook Gourds. I've been here since full time since 2019. I work back in the finishing room. I do pretty much what we're going to be doing today. I put all the finishing touches onto the gourd. And then this is Ashley.
Hi, I have been working here for a really long time. I help do a lot of the different designs. I work a lot on the farm, and in our marketing team. And I kind of do a little bit of everything. So,
Yes. All right. If you see us looking down here at this little paper here, we just have a reference of things that we need to just touch up on here. But all right, so we're going to get started. I'm going to just go over all of the different items that you should have in your little kit. First things first, you should have your little sunflower gourd, which this is what we're making. This is our little sample. You should have this piece here. This is the center. It did come to you with a rubber band on it. You can take that rubber band off and set that to the side. It's just to hold it all together. So you should have those separate pieces. And yes, it does come out. That's totally fine. That way we can get the separate colors as you see here. You should have a leaf and a little
green coil.
yeah, there we go. Thank you. You should have a little light that goes in the bottom of that. You should have 2 Q-tips, 2 paintbrushes, one bigger and one small, a whole thing of paints. I think some of the kits came with the paints kind of separated, which is totally fine. They should be all there, and then your one glue pot. And that should be everything.
And I did want to say, if anyone, my rubber band, I think was actually maybe broken whenever I opened my package. But just so you guys know, if you're looking at your sunflower, on the very back of it, there is a pencil line. And that will kind of help you know, that means that that's towards the bottom. That way you're not sitting here trying to fit these in, because they all kind of look the same, so they're tricky. So that pencil line is the bottom. And then just so you know, later you will, once you paint the middle piece, you will want to be careful how you glue it in, because it does fit in a particular way. So you want to make sure that you're checking that. And we don't really need that till we glue it in, but I just wanted to show you in case you wanted to play with your piece, just see how it fits together. It's kind of like a puzzle. And they do fit together perfectly. So
yes, and mine does have that pencil mark up onto even this center piece.
oh, that's nice.
Yours
I
has
don't know that mine.
too.
Oh, mine
Does
does.
it?
I didn't even realize that
That's
part. Well,
okay.
then that's even easier.
Yep. So that'll
Awesome.
be easy for you guys.
Perfect.
A couple things before we start painting. I want to say we do have a plate with us and a water dish with some napkins. So if you want to go grab them things. I know some of you might have already done a class with us, so you know to grab them. If not, I'll give you like a minute here to go grab that stuff. All right.
Yeah.
Whoever, I think Margaret, I think you're okay. I don't hear anything. If I do, I'll let you know.
We don't hear anyone else. So
all right, let's get started. First thing we're gonna do is, I think we're gonna paint our little leaf here. So you wanna get your bigger paintbrush and then your green paint. And I do want to mention too, if you have other colors at your house that you want to use, you are more than welcome to use them. You do not have to use the ones that we gave you.
I can't even open them.
Oh, no.
They're tricky when they're singles.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I know rhyme or reason with this. I do know the heavier you put on the paint, your lines that are on there are going to get covered. which is okay. You can go back through later and outline them, or you can take like a toothpick and get in the little lines on the leaf as well. I am painting the sides of my leaf here just so, because you're gonna see it and it'll bother me if I don't paint them. So if you want to do that as well, you can.
Yeah, I was painting mine too. So
The backside, I don't think you're not gonna see the backside. So I think it'll be okay not to paint that. So I'm gonna leave that not painted.
oh man, I should have just like opened all these ahead of time. There we go.
All right. So I'm all finished with that. And I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush out. And I'm going to paint the flower part of the sunflower next, just because it's a lighter color and I don't want your paintbrushes to get too dark with the brown. So we're going to do the yellow next for the flower. And feel free to tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast. This is recorded, so if you do miss anything, you will be able to reference back to it. And I like to get my paintbrush wet a little bit before I dip it into the paint, just to thin out the paint a little bit more. And it helps for it all to dry faster as well.
Are you mixing the two yellows? Or
I'm
which
not. So
yellow?
those two yellows are the same color.
Gotcha.
That's
Thank you.
We might have to do a second coat on the yellow if it's too light. But we can definitely do that then.
I was gonna say, I think it depends on what style you're going for, because my brush was a little wet also, and I actually think the yellow kind of almost looks more like a dye instead of a paint, because I could still see some of the gourd markings through. Now, I personally like that on mine, but if you want yours to look more like paint and be thicker, then you can just do more coats.
Yeah. And don't use water.
Yeah.
And I am going on the inside rim of my gourd here too. As you can see, like the little sanded part that the centerpiece goes in, just because you will see like the tiniest bit in there, depending on how you sit that centerpiece in there. So I just like to paint that. All right. I guess I put it up. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and paint the center because it's okay if we have a little bit of brown in our paintbrush to do the whole gourd. So once you're done with the yellow, I'll have you switch to the brown and we'll paint the inside of the sunflower. Is everybody doing okay so far? I see some thumbs up.
My yellow on the surface is, I mean, it looks really watered down. I mean, I can see a lot of brown through it. It's almost like there's a coating on it. It's not taking the paint.
I see what you're saying. So mine looks like that too. And I think what we'll just have to do is if you want it to not look as much of the actual gourd coming through, you'll just have to put more coats on it. So just let that coat dry really good and then go back and put more of that on.
I think if your brush was wet from cleaning it to do the yellow, I think you're gonna notice that because I was noticing it as I started the brown and I just had to dry out my brush a little more so that I could get a thicker coat on too.
Okay.
So that could be part of it. Yeah, if your brush
Okay.
has any water on it, it makes the paint look a lot thinner than it actually is.
Okay.
Just all depends on how you want your gourd to look.
Well, it just looks streaked with the way it is now.
Yeah.
So,
I would just take a paper towel and wipe your brush off and then go back through and wipe your cord again just to get those streaks out.
okay. All right. So we're going to do the center now.
Yes. I think I am going to touch mine up just a little bit with the brown.
I'm sorry. Are we doing the brown or the kind of reddish color?
The brown.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's up to you guys if you want to get inside of the little holes here. You can either leave them the natural color or put the brown paint in them. But I found after I brushed the whole thing, I was going back and putting a little bit of paint on the very tip of my brush and then just kind of pushing it down and swirling it a little to get paint in. And then I'm just going to brush over top once I do all of those holes again.
Good idea.
I tried the little brush, but it was too little.
Yeah. And I do want to say be careful with the paint getting on your clothes. It does not come off very easily with your clothes, but your hands and stuff, it'll come off very, very easily. So I'm just going to set those pieces to the side, let them dry a good bit. I will say too, if you have wipes,
Oh no, you're good.
wipes will help take some of that paint off your fingers too.
And I was just going to mention this, the green coil that you have, which will attach your leaf onto your gourd, is a lighter green. So you can either leave it this light green or you could paint it the dark green to match the leaf if you wanted to. That's kind of totally up to you. So-
No,
Sorry, what?
We did not hear.
Yeah, if someone did have a question, we're not able to hear you at the moment. Might have been an accident.
It's all right. All right.
And I would say if you're going to paint the coil, spread it apart a little bit because you're really only going to be painting the outside of the coil. And you might want a little bit of water on your brush for that one because the coil will soak it up a little bit.
You're all painting away there still. Go. So once you get all of those pieces all finished, if you want to just look over them and see if you want to touch any of them up, I would do that now. I think I'm going to make my yellow a little bit darker. And then we'll go on to your big piece here, the main part of the gourd.
So while we're either touching up our gourds or kind of waiting for our stuff to dry, I did want to let everyone know that we do have a fall create your own coming up here at our farm for any of you that live close to us. It's going to be the first 2 weekends of October, and we have a bunch of different fall pieces that you guys can make: scarecrows, jack-o'-lanterns, candy dishes, baskets, and you kind of come here and get to pick them out and make them kind of similar to this. The stuff will already be pre-crafted, and then you get to add whatever colors and dyes and accessories you would like. And then we also have a class here at the farm that is a succulent class on September 10th that still has some spots open for anyone that's interested. And the rest of our Zoom classes, I think this is our last Zoom class until November. So if you guys are interested in Zoom classes, the best way to know when the next one's coming up is to follow us on our newsletter that you can sign up for online. So
I thought there was a bat Zoom class, the little bat.
there is, I think it's sold out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so if you've already signed up, then there is a bat Zoom class, but I do think it's sold out at this point for anyone who hasn't signed up.
Okay.
Yes, you're right.
Thank
All right. So I see a couple of you still painting away. If you're still working, that's okay. I'll just go ahead and explain the next step for those that are possibly done and ready for the next step. So we're going to paint our big gourd here. To do that, I think I'm going to have Ashley explain what you have to do to get the color we need.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is both of your yellows are the same. I'm going to take one yellow out completely onto my paper plate here. And then what you're going to do is the red that you have, you're not going to pour the red out, but you only need a little bit of red, and you're going to slowly mix it in until you get the orange color that you want. You'll see as you mix, the more red you have, the more darker and the more like burnt orange it's going to be. So like I put only a little bit in, so I still have a pretty, mine's looking a lot more like tangerine at the moment. So I'm going to want a little bit more red, but you're just going to slowly mix in that red until you see the orange that you want. You want to try not to mix it too dark. Luckily, there are 2 yellows. So once you're done with your other yellow, you can mix more yellow back in to make it lighter. but that's how we're gonna mix them.
I'll, this is the color that we're mixing to. And you're more than welcome to use the green and brown. We're just explaining how we get this exact color.
Yeah, if you aren't quite getting it dark enough, you could add a little bit of the brown to it. And honestly, which we'll show you later, once we paint the whole gourd orange, we will kind of streak, and we'll teach you how we do it, but we do streak like a little bit of brown and a little bit of the yellow back into the gourd to kind of tie everything together. I think I am just about there.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So not that you guys can see as well. It's going to be lighter. It's going to be a little lighter than what it's going to dry on your gourd whenever it's all finished.
Okay, and once you get that all mixed up, you can go ahead and start painting. And I think mine's just a little bit different than what Ashley's is, and that's totally fine. I think hers is just a little darker.
Yeah, I just added a little more than you did.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, like if you start painting and you don't like it, you can go ahead and remix paints and repaint over it.
And you are going to paint all of these little cutouts also, because you are going to see them just a little bit. Yeah, you're just a little bit.
Yeah. And to paint this gourd, we stick our hand up underneath into this hole here and spread your fingers out, and that'll give you a good grip on it. And you're more than welcome to paint your stem of your gourd. I know that's a good question that a lot of people ask, is if they should paint that, and it's totally up to you. I think it just ties in the gourd by doing so, but if you don't want to, that's okay. You think one coat will work?
Yeah, I'm just making, so I like to add a couple streaks to my gourd. So I'm just taking a little bit of red and a little bit of the brown and mixing them together. I'm just trying to see what color that makes, and I'll show you guys. If you guys like it, you can do it. And then when my gourd's still wet, I kind of like to add a couple streaks to it. So I'll go through and streak it like this, and then I'll kind of go back and blend it in into the gourd, and that'll help make it a little darker. Now, if you do too much, it's going to end up making your gourd brown instead of the orange that you would want. Let's see if I can hold mine any closer then. So I kind of went through and streaked some of the red and brown together into the gourd. And then whenever it dries, it's going to be it'll dry darker than what it is right now. Does anybody have any questions so far? Is anything not turning out quite the way they were hoping? It looks like everybody's still doing pretty good.
Yeah. And like Ashley said earlier, make sure to get in the inside of the cutout here, because you will see like a little bit of that. Has anyone not been to the farm? Yeah.
Did you check the chats just to make sure? Okay, yeah, there's nothing.
So we had a couple of you say you've never been to the farm. Is that just because you live kind of far away? Yeah. That's all right. Well, we're glad that you could come and join us with the Zoom classes and still be able to do stuff with us. North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. We're glad that we can reach all of you from everywhere all over the United States.
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina too, but I used to live in Pennsylvania, so I've been to the farm.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Nice.
How many of you have never done a Zoom class with us before? Oh, okay. So some first timers.
Nice. Well, this is a super easy one for your first one, I think.
And did anybody have any questions or anything? Even if it's not about the project, just in general.
Yeah, anything about Meadowbrook? If not, that's okay. I see you all painting away there. So we are finished painting, at least for this portion. So at this point, we have our gourd completely painted with the sunflower in the center of that sunflower and our leaf, and then the coil if you chose to paint that coil. So I'm just giving you all a little bit, and it gives our gourd a little bit time to dry because it is pretty wet still. And then we'll go and glue everything together. But I guess we can explain a little bit, since there's been some of you that maybe don't know too much about our process. I think I can let Ashley do like the farming process of how we start from a seed to bring it in
Okay.
here.
So yeah, so all of our gourds, we actually start in a greenhouse in May usually, and we will plant them in the ground in June, and then we will be pollinating them July and August. We hand pollinate our gourds actually with paintbrushes. And then in the fall, we will pick the gourds and put them on vines. So that's usually once closer to when we get a nice frost. That way the vines kind of die back so you can see the gourds. So we'll pick them and we'll put them into rows. And then we actually let them sit in the field all winter long until spring. And in the spring, once the fields are dry enough for us to get out there with our big equipment and tractors, we will go out to the fields and collect all the gourds. And then we will sort them by shapes and sizes. And that's kind of like a fast run through of like what the farming year looks like for gourds.
Yep. And then once they come inside, we do wash out all of the gourds. So that's why a lot of them have this hole in the bottom of them. That way we can get in there with our pressurized hose. That's how we clean them. We also have a wash tank that they'll twirl in and get really good and clean. Any of the remainder skin that is left on the gourd after it's in the wash tank, we do brush off of it so that we can dye or paint, and that's how we get our dye or paint to stick really good onto the gourd. So once we wash it, that goes into our drying room. It'll stay in our drying room for like 24 hours, and then they'll bring out into an area, and there's someone that will designate it where it needs to go. Most of the time it goes into the crafting room. It will get these cutouts. So as you can see, the piece that you're working on, it is handcrafted by one of our crafters here. They use like a little jigsaw and they get in there and they craft it one by one. Usually our runs are about 100 each, give or take. There might be a little less, a little bit more.
Yes. So one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that we don't sit down and make one product the whole way through at a time. So we'll wash 100 of the same gourd, then we'll craft 100 sunflowers. And then if we were finishing this, we would color 100 sunflowers, and then someone else would glue all 100 sunflowers together and add the leaves all at one time. So you're doing one step at a time instead of thinking, oh, you get a gourd, you cut it, you paint it, and glue it together all at one time. So what we're doing here, we would never do in this type of process back where we work.
Yes, this is like a little treat for us because we get to do like just one.
Yeah.
Rather than hundreds. But yeah, so once it gets crafted, it brings over into our finishing room and it'll get their dye or paint. Most of our paints are sprayed on in our spray booth. Our dyes are leather dyes and they get brushed on to the gourd. Once the color is on, then we spray it with a coat of polyacrylic. That just gives it a seal and a little extra shine to the gourd, as you can see in the light here as the gourd sitting here. And then it'll be pushed back over to what we call the parter outers or our gourd beauticians. And we put everything together. So we would glue these centerpieces on, we would twist these coils on, put noses in snowmen, hats, scarves. So anything you can think of that's the finishing touches onto the gourd is what the parter's outers would do. And then it gets pushed behind Ashley and she will inspect all of the gourds. So just because you guys don't get to inspect them, and we want to make sure that it's first quality and that it's something you would want to buy. All right, I see a couple of you still painting away, which is totally fine.
Yeah, ours is still
Still a
drying,
little
but
wet.
getting a lot more dry.
Yeah. I think the coils should be a little bit, the coil and the leaf should be dry enough to attach that. So all you have to do with that is take your coil and there should be a hole in your leaf at the top of it. and that longer end of the coil will go into that leaf. And then once you put that in, all you need to do is take it with your fingers and just bend it down. That'll hold that coil in the leaf and it should not fall out. And my board's just a little bit wet at the top still. So I'm gonna wait to put the actual leaf on, but that step is super easy. Your centerpiece with your sunflower, that should be good and dry at this point. So we can go ahead and glue those together. Do not worry if you're not at this part yet, like I said. So
Yeah, we
need-
can always back up or answer any questions if someone feels a little bit behind.
Yes. So you need your little glue pod and your Q-tip. You'll just dip your Q-tip into your glue pod there. And I'm going to grab the yellow part of the sunflower. And in the cutout here, I'm going to just drag the Q-tip in the center there and get a good ring of glue. And don't worry too much if you get messy with your glue. This is just a tacky, like an Elmer's, not Elmer's, but just like a tacky glue. So it will dry clear.
I don't know if you can see, I just have a ring and it's towards the inside, like she was saying. And then just make sure before you put this in, make sure you have your lines for lined up so that everything's gonna fit in nicely.
And then you're not
But it should fit right in.
fixing it.
Yeah.
And you can wipe the excess glue off if it's just a little bit too much. So then we can go ahead and glue that sunflower into the belly of the gourd here. I'm going to hold it on the bottom again, and I'm going to take my Q-tip and go on the inside of the gourd here, just like you did for the sunflower too.
And you do not have to go around the whole thing. Like you could just pick the bottoms like the tops of all these, like one side of each like zigzag instead of having to paint or glue the entire thing.
Yes. No need to spend all that time. And don't worry too much if you see some paint coming off. I have a little bit, mine's just a
I
little.
do too.
Do you?
Yep.
Yeah,
I do.
I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you could actually see, but yeah, I just did like every other or something like that for the glue.
And then like Ashley said, you'll just find that line, and that line, pencil line will go at the bottom of your board, and then you'll just push that in. And that should be glued in. And then the last step that you'll want to do is you'll want to add your little leaf.
And I like to stretch mine out pretty far. Hold on. It's not at like a great place for you guys to see it, but there, that's on my green shirt. I feel like you can't see, or maybe I just can't from here, but yeah. So
someone asked if I could repeat the coil instructions again. Super simple. You just take the longer portion of that green coil, you put it in the hole of your leaf, and then at the end, at the back of the leaf, you just bend it down so that it gives it a little hook, so that whenever you pull it, it doesn't.
it'll have just a
come
little
out.
knot.
I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully that helped. And then you'll just twist your coil around your stem. Just like that. And it doesn't matter whatever side you would like your leaf to go on. And I do
I
want
feel
to,
like my yellow is still too wet because I wanted more yellow, so I did like 2 or 3 coats. So I'll
That's
just
okay.
wait,
that's
do
okay.
it later.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And just let that dry a good bit. And like I said, this is going to be recorded. So if you need to reference back to it, you'll get that in an email.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Uh-huh.
welcome.
And then are you gonna talk about adding these
Oh, yes.
lines?
So while we have the sunflower, one thing that I did forget that Ashley pointed out.
Well,
which was
I don't
great.
do it till it's glued together.
Oh.
So
Perfect.
I like it glued together, and it's a personal preference. You might like your sunflower just as it is. But we do have where you use the brown paint and your thinner paintbrush to draw little lines on your sunflower just to give it maybe a little bit more character, or maybe you like your sunflower as it is, which is fine also. So I use a small paintbrush, and so it's basically, I just kind of do a swoop from the center to where the gourd meets, but not the big triangle part, if that makes sense, like the smaller to where the cutouts are. I don't know how to describe that. Like, not the points, you're gonna do it to the smaller.
The one
Smaller
closer
ones.
to the center.
Yeah. So sometimes you can either do a straight line, or sometimes I curve mine a little bit. I don't know if you can see that on mine or not, but
Just gives it more of like a petal look if you curve it rather than a straight line.
so then you guys can either leave it like that, or if you want to add a little bit of brown into the centers, you can kind of make some small streaks and then rub them in a little bit with your finger. If you want to add a little bit of brown, or like little, they're just kind of like little tick marks to it. You don't have to do that, or if you start to do it and you don't like it, you could always add a little bit more yellow to it.
Will the video or the playback have like more of an up close picture of, because I can't see that at all. I'm sorry, what you're doing right now.
So what we're doing here, I'll bring this closer. Do you see those little lines here on the sunflower?
I really don't, but I'm hoping I'll see it in the because like I have everybody on my screen, so you're
Oh, okay.
So then, yeah, I would assume when you're watching the video, it'll just be us,
Okay.
right?
I'm
Or-
hoping.
Or because we have just us on our screen mostly. So hopefully it'll be a little bit bigger on the video. Are yours rubbing in okay?
Yes.
Okay, mine were too. I was just adding a little bit more yellows because I didn't want them quite as dark as I had them.
Yeah, I think I'll have to go back and add some yellow, but that's okay.
But like we said, you don't have to add those marks. That's just kind of like extra stuff if you like it. If you don't, then don't. You don't have to add that.
And I'll try and show you,
because mine were coming out just a little bit darker than I wanted. So I'm just going back over with some yellow.
When you get a chance, could you show close up how you put that leaf on, how you twisted the stem?
yes.
I don't know
Sure
if
thing.
if I could see it just a little bit closer up.
Of course. So all I do is I have it facing like towards me, and I take it, I pull mine out. Ashley, I think, pulls at it this way. I like to make it straight right here.
Okay.
And then I lay it down on the gourd, and I have this part, and I just twist, and I have tension on it so that it's really tight onto that gourd. And then I'll
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
good question.
My other question is, if you wanted to put that shiny coat on it, at what point would you do that? Would you do it before you glued it together?
No, so you'll want to glue everything together and have, I would probably leave your leaf off whenever you go to spray it. But I would glue everything together and then spray it all at once. And then your leaf would be sprayed separately. And then once it's good and dry, which will be about like 15 minutes, then you'll go ahead and add your leaf back on.
And what is that spray stuff called?
Polyacrylic.
Polyacrylic.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
This
So I missed a step. So what are you using? Are you using the brown or the red that you mixed for the lines?
Oh, the brown, just the normal brown.
Okay, thank you.
And I was also going to say, if anyone lost the lines in their leaf when they painted the green, you could use the brown and the small brush to kind of add those back also. I'm trying to think if you guys can even see the lines. I still have my lines from earlier. And I don't know if I show like a close up of this, if that helps.
I'm just going back through and doing the yellow that Ashley did. I'll show you. I don't know if you can probably see it. Just to make it a little less dark on the petals here.
Yeah, you can try to do a zoom up of yours too, because then maybe someone could pause it. Like what I did with those at the end, maybe someone would be able to pause it.
There we go. Can you all see that? That's what we were doing. Great. So I think that's all the painting.
Yeah. Yep.
We're all done with that. Does anybody have any other questions? And it doesn't have to be about the gourds for this class. It could be about anything. See, some of you still painting away. I do want to remind you about your little light up base too, that you're more than welcome to plug it into the wall to light up your gourd. It'll just light up the centerpiece there and it'll look super pretty.
So all you do for that is you put your gourd right on top and you can just sit it right down. And then you should be able to just pick it right off if you would ever need to for any reason. But you want to push it in there. You don't have to push that hard. That way it won't just fall right out either. Is there anything else anyone needs us to go back over?
Okay, well, we would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out and getting on your Zoom and joining us tonight. We had fun and I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, thank you
Yes,
guys.
thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.